You were so excited, aren't you? He's so excited. Did you take a shot?
Are we saying it?
We can always cut the first part. We can always say Merry Christmas, whatever.
We're never going to get through this. So what am I supposed to say? Okay, I got to stop laughing first.
All right, everyone. Thank you for coming back to another episode of Mom and Son Unplugged. I'm Damonte, the son part of the podcast.
And I am Melissa, the mom part of the podcast. Welcome back we're still on episode 5, but we're in our part 2 with our guest, Damon. He decided to come back for a second round. He must have enjoyed it the first time. We actually got a lot of views, so thank you all so much for supporting us. I think we're up to like 125 views on episode 1. So Damon, you're a hit. You might be a permanent member of our podcast.
I bring the people.
All right. So first off, we want to congratulate Damon. He just closed on a home, and actually he closed on his brand new home on his birthday. So happy birthday and congratulations.
Thank you.
How do you feel about that?
I feel pretty good about it. It's been a long time in the making. I started this process in December, which was supposed to have been a Christmas present, ended up turning out to be.
He's making the big money now, so he's
may have some different thoughts. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for coming back for part 2. And Damonte, thank you for joining us today. Damonte's under the weather, so thank you for being part of the episode, and I hope you feel better. But so tell us a little bit about what you've been up to the past couple weeks. I know you went to Yellowstone, so how was that?
Yep. A couple weeks ago, I went to see the Grand Tetons and Yellowstone. I don't know if we spoke about the camping story for my 16th birthday, but I'm not a big camper.
We did. Yeah, that was one of your less desirable trips that I took you on for your birthday.
Yep. But I did go to Yellowstone, and that was a lot of fun. I got to see Old Faithful, which is something that I've wanted to see for a while. So that was a cool experience to go see. And then this past week, I got to go see my dad for his birthday and close the house with them, and then spend time with my family for Labor Day. And I also got to go see some of my friends from college. So that was a lot of fun.
Super fun. Man, so you have had an eventful the past 2 weeks. No wonder why you're sick. You've been moving and grooving.
Definitely a busy end of the summer.
Nice. Well, what a good way to end it.
With the cold.
Yeah.
And I think that you just went on a surprise trip.
I did. One of my best friends, Dion, her and we have known each other for 28 years. And she had hit me up sometime in August, and she said, "Hey, do you want to do this thing with me over Labor Day weekend? It's called Pack Up and Go, to where you submit online through the company Pack Up and Go about a trip. You don't know where you're going until, technically you're supposed to wait until you get to the airport to open up the envelope to find out where you're going, but we wanted to open it up the day before so that way we can kind of change around our suitcases and what we packed if need be. So the night before, we opened up our envelopes, and so we got the surprise of going to Chicago, which was super cool because that was our very first girls trip together, was to Chicago. So when you do put in your request to go on a trip, you can put in places that you've already been, but we wanted to go back to Chicago because we went for New Year's Eve and it was so cold, we didn't do a lot. So we were super excited to go back. We had an awesome time. Pack Up and Go had set us up with dinner reservations each night and a couple different activities for us to do on that Saturday. Labor Day weekend, they set up for us to do a 3-hour food tour. And that was the highlight of the trip. Like, the food tour was so much fun. We learned a lot of historical facts about Chicago, the Great Chicago Fire, I think is what it's called. We saw a lot of different buildings and learned about the history of the buildings. So it was a really cool trip, and I do want to go back because it's such a cool city. The food is awesome, and the weather was great that weekend. So yeah,
Very
so we had a
nice.
really good time. And now I'm
That's fun.
just working to pay for the next trip. Oh, man. All right. So we have some good stuff for you guys this episode. So we're here to share our real experience navigating divorce, co-parenting, and how it shaped our family today. So we really hope you guys take away something from this episode. And this is our first time actually sitting down, all three of us, and actually talking about it. Like Damon and I have talked about it separately, like not too long ago. Damonte and I have talked about it separately, but we haven't actually sat down and talked about it all together. So we thought that, this would be a good idea to share our experience with other families. So if you guys are going through this, then hopefully it helps you. And if you have any questions, you can leave a comment and we will reach out to you and hopefully help you guys navigate if you guys are going through divorce, or not that we're experts, but hopefully this story and our experience will help you guys. All right. So I will have Damon talk about our backstory.
You said you were gonna put me on the spot. So I'll start back. We're both young airmen. I think we touched a little bit on this maybe in the last episode. Melissa came to, I was already on the base, and then Melissa PCS'd in. It was her first duty station, as was it mine. So we're talking like 97 time frame, and it's 97, early 98. And
Yep.
so she ended up getting a job in our admin section and working upstairs. And I was like, oh, she's cute. Let me go. So I was up there getting random pencils, stuff I didn't need.
Oh my God.
But I
I
was
swear he
always
needed a
up
pencil
there
every other day.
every day. It's like, I guess I either lost them or broke them on purpose or whatever. So yeah, then we started, dating, went TDY deployments together, being stationed, or I should say, assigned to the same unit. We got opportunities to travel together. But we did spend quite a few years at Langley. We left there in 2006. And so from the time we got there to that time, obviously Damonte was born in 2001. We got married in October of 2003. So Damonte was just a little over 2 years old at the time. He was a ring bearer. I don't know if he definitely doesn't remember that moment of trying to get him to come down the aisle. But yeah, so married October 2003. And I think we divorced sometime in like 2007, I think is when it went official. But
No, it was official February of 2006.
2006, okay, so I was off a year. But yeah, so that's kind of like a little bit of backstory. Dated for, quite a while before deciding to get married. And we didn't want to get married, as you can see from the 2 year time gap from the time Damonte was born to the time we actually got married, just because we were having a child together. So just wanted to put that context out there. When you find out, that you're having a kid, when you're thinking you're going to get a peanut butter cup in a bag, you got to figure out what this woman's all about, right?
Oh yeah, we never told that story.
I think you touched on it in one episode on how I found out, but
No,
yeah,
I never told it. I was waiting for you to tell it.
yeah. So we were deployed. I think you know that part of it when we found out we were having Damonte. And so I love peanut butter cups, and actually that's one of Damonte's favorite candies too. I found out from the other episode. I should have known when he said he ate 12 during the 10,000K challenge that he had to like, but he could have just been doing it for the calorie count. But anyway, so we had been, at work one day, and she comes back. We meet up in that afternoon, and she would normally buy me like Reese cups every now and then, and so I'm all excited. I think it's a Reese cup, and I open up the bag
In a brown paper bag.
in a brown paper bag, and it's a pregnancy test. And at first, I was like, "This myself, I'm like, this ain't a Reese cup. What is this?" And then I looked at it, and I was like, "Oh, we're getting this." But I was, you never know. You talk about being ready for having a kid, and they say if you wait till you're ready, you'll never have kids. But it was such a joyous moment for me, for sure. So I was pretty excited. And then I started prophesizing it was going to be a boy from like that moment on.
Yeah,
So,
me too. Like I wanted a boy. Like
so
I wasn't even thinking about a girl. I was like, this baby is gonna be a boy. Yep.
I'm
Yep.
like, when he
Best kid
gets here,
ever.
this and that. But yeah, that's kind of like a quick backstory on the timeline. I don't know if there was anything else you wanted me to kind of dive into
No,
on
well, I
that.
think even at the time when we were deployed to Turkey, like just starting a conversation of, do we want to move in together when we get back? So we kind of fast tracked that a little bit.
Yeah. We we
But
we did get a puppy first that
oh,
just
that didn't
out of
work.
I don't know how we would be together. The
That
puppy
did not
did not
work at
work.
all.
That dog hated Melissa for some reason.
Every dog has hated
Every
Melissa.
dog.
Oh my goodness.
I've tried. I've
Yeah.
tried.
Yeah.
All right. So that is a little bit about the start of us when we got married. So now we'll get into the nitty gritty of what led to the divorce in their silence.
Oh, I didn't know who was starting it off. You thought, so I was just,
Well, I
respectful.
guess I can start this one since you started the other one.
There you
So
go. This
from
is how
my
it works.
perspective, I will say I don't think either one of us were equipped with the foundation of knowing how to navigate marriage. I think that was a big component of it, of having to have hard conversations and get through those conversations that we need to have. I think that was the biggest thing, of not being able to express how we're feeling
Hmm.
without sounding like we're complaining or nagging. No, so I think that was like the biggest for me in the marriage, was trying to do things different from what I experienced growing up. Is I lived in a household where there was always fighting and bickering and yelling at each other. And the thing that stuck in my mind was, I don't want to live in that type of home, nor do I want to create that type of environment for my child, or even have that environment for my husband. So I think that's why I was so afraid to bring up anything that bothered me, because I didn't want to be looked at as a nagging wife or someone complaining or fighting. And I don't, knowing now, or what I know now, I wish I knew back then. I wish I knew how to communicate effectively, to be able to get across, hey, this is how I'm feeling. How do we get through this? Because what led to the decision of, I'm unhappy, I don't want to do this, is I think I just felt alone, because Damon was always working night shift. So it was always me and Damonte, me bringing him to daycare, me picking him up. I'm like, I'm doing this by myself. Like, it's always just me. And then with Damon working night shift, and it's hard to adjust the sleep schedule. Like, I understand that now, because it's like when he's getting home Friday night, or actually Friday morning, Saturday morning from Friday night shift, it's
Hmm.
like, he needs his sleep. But for us, it's like, oh, it's our weekend, but you want to sleep all day. But it's like, it's hard to be, I don't know, I think it was just hard, because it's like, we want to spend that time with you, but also he's trying to manage his schedule as well. And then it just got to the point of where, well, if I'm doing this by myself, I might as well just be by myself. So that was what led me to the decision to be like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, this isn't what I pictured marriage to be. So yeah, that's my thought process,
Our
and
process.
that's
Okay.
my side of the story.
Okay. So I'll start on kind of mine. So I'll start kind of like Melissa did, kind of like I came up in a two-parent home. My parents, been married like 50 plus years to this point. So I had that, but you never really see the hard work that happens in the background. And they're just an
Mm-hmm.
example, right? Because most parents are keeping that from their child, right? Like they kind of go in their room and they kind of handle whatever it is, if they're having disagreements, right? I mean, and after you get to a certain age, you may be able to pick up on like something's not right here, right? But it always worked out, right? So I had that example, and I, 100%, I think it was, maturity on a lot of levels. like Melissa talked about, communication is a huge part of it. I think for me, not realizing the person, like, once you're with someone, I like, been together with like 5 years prior to getting married, right? You know somebody at that point, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I guess being able to be in tune with that person and what their emotions, or what when you can tell like they're off, maybe not mature in like in that aspect of it, the communication side of it. And it's funny you mentioned the night shift thing, because when I was still in the military, like, and I meet young people and we'd be only like working nights, and I knew they had a family, I would say, like, look, no matter what you do, you have to make time during the week. At least, even if it's one day or something, and if your wife has a lunch break, go have lunch with her, go spend that time with her, right? So definitely something that, I started realizing, because I think coming into it from a different perspective, Melissa was fed up. I'm the one that's like, I want to make this work. I want to make this work. And sometimes, those actions or those feelings may come a little late in the game, right? So that was a whole nother side of it, from the person, someone wanting it, and then a person not wanting it, right? But I think what that, once you work through all of those things internally, and you start to realize, like, I had a part in this person making that decision. Obviously, I probably played a bigger part in it, because you know what I mean. And
I
so
mean, I won't
that
say
was hard.
that either. Like, I won't say you played the bigger part. I think I would say it was equal, because it's like I didn't know how to say anything, or I refused to say anything to get my feelings across. So you didn't know. Like, you were in the
Yeah, but
dark. So,
also, I also feel like at that age, like, I don't know if I don't know if it was a maturity thing, or just didn't know how to, even if you had a display that, how I react to it. You know what I mean? Not saying
right,
I've been mad at. I'm just saying, like, would I've been um,
right.
to that
Like,
point,
what would have been your response?
yeah, to respond and
Yeah.
needs the way that you were expecting them to be met, right? So that's why I say I played that part, because there was obviously a lot of miscues and things of that nature. So, but I don't think it was, we were never like very argumentative. I don't think. I just think by nature I'm not a very argumentative or confrontational, I guess is a better word, type of
Yeah,
person.
me neither.
So, and sometimes that's not a good thing, because I'd rather just not talk about it, than to get, like Melissa said, having those hard conversations of what's
Mm-hmm.
going on and how you're feeling, and, and things of that nature. And, when you're young, and especially in the military, you're just trying to make it to the next rank, and you're just out there grinding sometime. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
your priorities may not be as well aligned as they should be, right? So that plays a part too, because like, I got to be at work. I'm working these late hours. I'm trying to prove myself, because you want to make
Mm-hmm.
the ranks so you can do better for your family, so you can you can get some of those nicer things and all these other things. And obviously having raising a kid, daycare was not cheap back in those days either, right?
No. Mm-mm.
So yeah, and I knew I would try to spend like at least one day with Damonte, because I just missed him, right, being on nights.
Yeah.
But I can definitely see, and I learned quickly when you went to Korea, like when it's just you, like what you go through.
Yeah.
So I think that respect definitely happened pretty quickly, because in five, I think it was, you got assigned
For
to Korea for a year, and so the
yeah.
like 3 4 years old, and like I'm doing this by myself now, right? So I quickly
Mhm.
had a newfound respect for all those times that I wasn't around and you were holding the fort down. So
Yeah, and I will say that was the hardest part, because 2000 and August of 2004 was when I got the 1 year assignment to Korea, and that's when you go unaccompanied without family members. And then that's when we decided, okay, this will be, because in Virginia you have to officially separate for a year before you can file for divorce. So that's when we decided to say, hey, this will be the start of our 1 year separation. So let me tell you, being in Korea for a year, just being separated, Monte being 4 years old, like, it was a tough year. Like, it was I mean, it was hard for the both of us, because you're in who knows what time zone I'm in. The time difference makes it even more challenging to even have conversations of, how's Damonte doing? And then I think it was like a couple weeks after I left, Damonte had to have hernia surgery. So that made the beginning of being away that much tougher because it's like, man, that sucks.
Mhm.
Like, so yeah, so that's what we endured during the startup of us getting divorced. And upon the return trip, so when I was over there, since we were still married, we were able to still get a joint assignment as my follow-on assignment after I left Korea. So coming back to Virginia, we had to sell the house. Let me tell you, this was chaotic as I don't know what. So this is where he knows what I'm about to talk about. So this is where communication, oh my God, if I could have strangled him, I would have. So I'm setting up. So let me set the scenario for you guys. We're near a year separated at this point. I'm returning back to Virginia from Korea. Haven't seen, well, halfway through you get a mid tour. So I was able to see Damonte halfway through for I think it's like a 30-day mid tour. So come back. We're selling the house. We're having to pack up. We have follow-on orders to Alaska. Set up my movers. And I tell Damon, I was like, I'm setting up my movers for this day. We cannot have our movers show up on the same day. So lo and behold, what does Damon do? He sets up his movers for the same day.
That's the date they gave me.
Oh, like that house was so chaotic because we were splitting up our stuff. We were literally splitting up our stuff. And I was hot as a teapot that day because I'm having his movers ask me, is this his? Is this yours? Is this coming with us? I'm yelling at him because he's on his. I remember this day clear as the Florida sky. I'm like, get off your phone, talk to your movers, let them know what you're taking. I don't know. Like I was hot. Like I was so mad. Like
At the
that was
end of
something I didn't want to deal with.
at the end of the day, it was all gonna make it to Alaska at some point. So it's like we'll just swap it. I don't care. Like, but she was mad. I'm probably at this point. I probably want to strangle her too. Like at this point, I'm sure those movers were like, "Let's get the hell out." That's probably the fastest they packed up anybody. It was just like, "Let's get this shit on the truck and get it over with."
They were probably like, they could deal with this in Anchorage.
Yeah,
But
like
like
these people.
get the
This
heck out
was
of World War III.
this was like people had cell phones, but they didn't have cameras on them.
No.
We would have definitely probably we'd have been made a viral video back in that time. But to
Yeah, we
that
would
point,
have been a
also, like
sensation.
we didn't have FaceTime like we did either. So talk about that
Mm.
distance of being from Damonte. You really it's just a phone call, and at 3 or 4, he ain't trying to be on the phone talking much.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely hard.
Yeah, I forgot about that day.
I'm glad we can laugh about it now.
We'll call that growth.
Did you have any initial fears or concerns about what was to happen?
I think that moment of revisiting that move got your eyes seeing red again and read.
I don't have my glasses on.
Some PTSD going on.
Literally,
Um,
I'm like, "Ah."
so what fears did I have? What was the other part of the question?
Fears or concerns?
Fears or concerns. So I think the initial fear is what does it look like to go from a dual income to a single income,
Just worried about. He was worried about his BAH.
right? Yeah. I mean, I think that's a valid concern, right? Because
No, it is. Yeah.
you gotta live, you gotta now take care of the kid. I don't think it was necessarily and I say that because, you don't know, someone until you don't, right? And
Right.
so I guess going into it, the other concern was even though we were going to the same location, just what would it look like from who's spending time with Damonte on what days, how this could go, because when we
Yeah.
moved, Melissa had a place automatically because in the military, only one parent can claim the child as a dependent. And so,
Hmm.
being that Damonte was under her as a dependent, rightfully so, right? She was able to get base housing where I had to, go live out. live downtown somewhere. So finding a house for me and her were a little bit different. She was lucky to get on a waiting list prior to us PCSing or departing, and a fairly short time, if I remember right, before you were able to
Yeah, it
get
was pretty
a
quick.
house. So I was like displaced for a few months, right? So, but that wasn't, I say all that
I
to
was gonna
say
say, y'all don't feel bad for him. He's making it sound horrible. It wasn't.
it wasn't like I was homeless. Damn it! The only benefit is somebody came to clean the room like every other day, so it was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was in base billing. He was fine.
definitely not no 5-star hotel. Let's just set the ground rules for that. Like, you lucky if you had hot water in the mornings, because if the other person beats you to it, you like, dang it, I got to get in the shower real quick. But so I think that was like one of the concerns from just the divorce side of things. Right now, you're going from
Right.
two incomes like to one. I think once I realized, like, when it officially happened, because keep in mind, we were in Alaska for a few months before the actual divorce was filed, I guess, or whatever the word. We got divorce decrees out of it, I guess.
Yeah, because we arrived in Alaska in August, and then I flew back to Virginia in
Mm.
February of '06 for, oh my God, that was like a 2-day thing to where I flew down to Virginia for 2 days just to go to the court system. And then I had to have a witness with me that knew that we were married. And then it literally was 5 minutes. Yeah, so it was February of '06. So yeah, we hadn't been in Alaska very long.
Yeah. So we do all that just to go back and be like, oh, all this time, wait a year, it takes 5 minutes, just over with, right?
Yep.
But I
Oh,
think in
but I
in
will
in that
say,
moment,
oh yeah, I'll put a pin in my next thought of why ours was only 5 minutes. So sorry, continue on with your
okay.
thought.
And so within that, like, she flew back, I didn't. So
Mhm.
at first I didn't want to sign paperwork. So I was like, I was the guy who wanted to do this counseling thing and whatever, right? And so, but eventually I just signed the paperwork. So I didn't even go back to court. So I could have, I had no idea what was going to come back from the decree. I was just like, all right, I just signed the paperwork. It just be like, could have got nothing. So obviously there's trust there, right? So I don't want to say it wasn't like I didn't trust her, but I think
Yeah.
the other concern was, like, once it's finalized, not knowing what it looks like moving forward as far as, the co-parent thing. That was probably the biggest concern, because
Hmm.
once you're divorced and the system is updated, we're no longer getting assignments together. Like, they don't care just because you got a kid. They're not going to, the military needs you where the military needs you. And so I think that was probably the biggest concern, was at one day we will not both be stationed here, and what is,
Hmm.
and that fear. Now it's like trying to maintain a long distance relationship with your child, and they're
Hmm.
young, and then, like I said, at that time he was probably like 8 by now. I think he was right around 5 almost. I think we got to Alaska. We got to Alaska in '06, and we left in.
Oh yeah, so he was 5 years old because I
Right.
think that was when he first entered kindergarten.
Yeah, yeah. So he started school there with a broken, fractured wrist. Remember, he was in a cast his first day with the neighbor's kids,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
so I think that was my only other concern, was that, right? Just like,
Yeah.
we're not going to be together. I wasn't too concerned leaving in the initial stages because I knew we were going to the same place. But the biggest fear is, like, just, how good am I, or how good of a father I can be, or effective father I can be from a distance, right? And that was my biggest fear, because
Hmm.
my dad was always there with me. So that was probably the biggest thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for me, the initial fears or concerns, well, initially, as petty as this is, I will say the only thing that we had a disagreement about was who was taking the washer and dryer.
I don't remember this one either.
He wanted the dryer. I could have taken the washer. He wanted the dryer. It couldn't go in a pair. I don't even remember what we ended up doing with the washer and dryer. I don't even know if we just said we'll just leave it, or I don't
I don't
even
even
remember.
remember arguing about that, so I definitely don't
That
know.
was that was like the only thing that we couldn't agree on was who was taking the washer and dryer. Yep.
That's not bad. That's not a.
Not
It
bad.
seems crazy, but it's not really not that bad.
Yeah, so my initial fear concern, Definitely the same one as Damonte is. I mean, the same one as Damon. Sorry, I had Damonte on my mind. I'm gonna start over.
Oh,
It's been a long
cut
week.
off.
I'm tired. All right. So, yeah, so my initial fears and concerns, the same as Damon's, was yeah, these 3 years after our divorce was final, yeah, it's all great because we are all here in Alaska, but we know the way military moves go. We didn't know where either of us were going to end up going. So that was a concern because, of course, neither one of us wanted to be separated. We didn't want to be long distance parents, but we knew moving forward that we were just going to have to make the best decision possible and what was going to be best for Damonte. And we really had to wait and make that decision based on what assignments we received. And also, we had to gauge how our military careers were going as well. So that was a huge part of that. And that actually kind of rolls into our next topic of our custody arrangement. So that was one thing that Damon briefly mentioned, was us just signing paperwork, me only taking 5 minutes in the court system of granting our wishes of a divorce. Was we didn't necessarily feel that we needed to have a judge decide for us how we wanted to do our arrangements with Damonte. I think we both were able to figure that out on our own. And I think we were pretty civil, like through the whole process. I mean, it was definitely tough, probably the first couple of years as we were navigating being separated, learning. We actually were learning how to communicate, because if you don't know how to communicate when you're together, you are definitely going to have to learn how to communicate going through divorce, because you have to put your personal feelings aside, because the most important person is your child or your children. What is the best interest for them? Because you don't want what is happening between you two to affect the success of your child or your children. So that was one thing that we did talk about, is what is the best thing for Damonte. So initial fears and concerns, it would definitely be, okay, so what's going to be going on with Damonte moving forward? And I will say, I think we probably had a 100% success rate with that. I think we definitely made the best choices for Damonte during that whole time. I don't think it probably couldn't have gone any better than what it did, because initially, when we both received our orders to leave Alaska, Damon got orders to Tucson, Arizona, and I had received orders to Clovis, New Mexico. So no, yeah. I did not ask for that, by the way. I was hidden in the system and I got what was left over for assignments. Yep. So lucky me. But I did really enjoy where I worked there. The leadership was great. And then we had decided that Damonte would move with me first, and I thought it was good. There was literally nothing to do in Clovis, New Mexico. So I kept Damonte in sports, and that's what filled up all of our extra time. And that's kind of what kept us going there, was Damonte being in sports and looking forward to him being in basketball, him being in baseball. Like, Damonte did awesome in baseball there. So that's how we kind of handled that first part of our initial move. And then I don't even think I was in New Mexico for not even quite 2 years. And I had put in a package to change my jobs in the military. So I ended up getting approved to change my job. So I had to go to Texas for 6 months to go to school. And there was no way I would have been able to take Damonte with me. So then that's when we made the decision that Damonte was going to move to his dad's in Arizona. So that's when we really had to, I mean, that's when the communication really comes into play, because it's like, hey, what's going on with your career? Okay, so what is the best move at this point? And then Damon can go into detail on how that all worked with him and his job, and then actually kind of what came into play after that.
Okay. So
Do you remember?
what's that?
I said, do you remember?
I don't know, not really. I don't know exactly. A lot of things came into play.
Okay, so I'll just give you a quick synopsis and then Damon can go into detail. So, along with co parenting, you're also going to experience when the other person starts dating other people. I never had
Oh,
the best decision making in the guys that I dated. I still don't. Damon was always great in who he dated. So, when he was in Alaska, he ended up meeting this woman, Ganessa. So when he PCSed from Alaska, Ganessa had retired from the military and she ended up moving with him to his duty station in Tucson. So when Damon ended up taking over, I don't want to say it that way. So
taking
when
over.
taking over his parental duties. So when I went to school in Texas and Damonte moved with his dad, Damon ended up getting deployment orders. Do you remember?
Yeah. So what?
Okay.
Remember? So Damonte came out like in that summer, one summer after being in New Mexico, and I got in Tucson. And I remember him saying like he wanted to move live in Tucson. I was like, man, this is gonna be a tough conversation. I said, I'll let you do that because I don't want it to feel like I'm influencing this at all. And but
Mm.
when he first came and moved with me, I was by myself. But I had a circle of friends and their spouses and stuff were able to help out sometime. But yeah, but then shortly after that, Ganessa did join me in Arizona and made things a lot easier. But yeah, shortly after that, I got orders to deploy for 6 months, and so it was another. Now we're at this. Demonte's already left Clovis. At this point, he's like went to school in Alaska, New Mexico. Now he's in Tucson starting school, and now I have a deployment with this someone I haven't. We've maybe been dating a year at that point, maybe give or take. And so
Yes.
now I'm
Oh,
gonna
sorry.
his mom. That was not, the right thing, and I wasn't gonna ask Anessa to do that as well. And so I was like, the right thing at this point. Unfortunately, I mean, it's the middle of the school year. Is he's gonna have to go back, back with Melissa or whatever. Not unfortunately, it's just unfortunate from a standpoint of having to change schools again. Is what I was meaning. So
Yeah.
he goes back to I don't know. I don't think you were.
Well, no. Well, no, at this point, when I was in school and you had to deploy, this was before the school year started. And yeah, so him and Ganessa were, fairly new dating. And this is where, you really had to grow up and do the best for your child. We ended up having to do powers of attorney for Ganessa so
Yes.
that way she could sign Damonte up for school because he couldn't come with me because the school that I was in, I was there almost 12 hours a day every day. And my schooling, I was at school from 3 p.m. until almost midnight. And that was my school schedule every single day. And I'm like, there's no way like he can come here. Like
Mhm.
I wouldn't have been able to manage it. So Ganessa ended up stepping up as part of our co-parenting relationship. And I mean, and she was amazing. Like her and I had a great relationship, sweetest woman. And she handled things while I was in school and while Damon was deployed. And if it wasn't for her, I don't even really know what we would have done
Yeah.
because we really wanted to lessen the disruptions as much as possible for Damonte.
Yeah, and also at that point we were so far in our military career. It was like you got to go, you got to retire at this point. You got to put in those extra number of years to get to that eligibility to be retired. But yeah, so definitely was she played a huge part in the whole thing, especially navigating that. Like I wasn't necessarily concerned when I was here in Virginia because my parents lived when Melissa deployed. My parents were like an hour and a half away, and then we also had a good friend Jennifer who would help out as well if needed be. So that here was a lot safer space because I'm from here and I had so much family right within a couple hour distance, right. But when you get to in Arizona, when at first I was just like, man, I
That
got
is tough.
work, Demonte, I got to find somebody to watch him. And it's cool when you got like a summer program and stuff like that, and you're working day shift and it works out. But those times you may have to work on nights or something. It's a little bit different. So that's when having somebody else there really came into play a part. And her boys and Damonte are like brothers, so they great relationship all the way through that piece of it. So yeah.
Yeah. So that just goes to show every family situation is different.
Hmm.
Ours is probably the most rare because, we were a military family and we just had to work through I will say what our environment forced us to do
Hmm.
and what was the best for Damonte. And not a lot of families may have to experience this, but if you are a military family, that was the best thing that we had to do to
Right.
make sure that he stayed in the same school and tried to be as stable as possible. So now that we talked about all of that, the center of all of this, Damonte, we would like to hear from him, his experience, his perspective, and what do you remember from all of this? I know you were only 4 years old when it first started, but kind of like as early as what you remember.
So I guess, like you guys been saying, it was pretty early to remember. So I just thought that was, I guess, part of the military, I guess, because you guys both got to Alaska. And even though you live separate, I guess I didn't really think anything of it. But then when my dad moved to Arizona and then you moved to New Mexico, like I thought it was weird, but I still thought it was like just a military thing. Because I think I mean, you guys know, I don't really question a lot. I
Mm-hmm.
just I'm just go with the flow.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was something that happened. I did think it was like weird, or like I guess something that I like picked up quick was learning how to fly by myself.
Oh, yeah.
Like flying between Arizona and New Mexico was like something often. Like any long weekend, that's what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess I never really questioned it as to like why or what was happening. I just knew that you guys didn't live together.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, the sports definitely helped, and I think when I got older and I started playing video games more, it helped me like stay connected with my friends.
Okay.
So I think that was
Mhm.
something that helped make adjustments easier.
Yeah. Oh, and then remember when we did PCS to Clovis, New Mexico, and then one day you were in class and then a kid showed up that you knew. I don't think you remember this, but yeah, when we moved to Clovis, Damonte came home one day and he was so excited to tell me, "You won't believe who showed up in my class today." And it was a kid that he was friends with from Alaska. So I think that just kind of goes to show being in the military, it is very close knit and you are bound to run into someone that you know from somewhere else. So having those connections and seeing people at new duty stations that you go to, I think it helps with transitions.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I always think that like me being in like the after school programs helped because like you said, I was always with like other military kids, like
Mm.
after after school. Sports was a big thing. I guess I was always busy,
Okay.
so I never like thought about it any more than I could have needed to.
Okay. So doing all of those things helped you adjust. And then how did you feel having to live in between two homes? Do you remember when you've had to move from like New Mexico to Arizona? And then when I got stationed to Vegas, you had moved out there with me. I don't know if you remember that too much.
I think I always thought it was just cool to have like different places to live
Oh,
because
okay.
because I know that not everyone had the chance that I did. I do remember that like leaving Arizona, like going into middle school was hard because I feel like I made a lot of good friends in fifth
Mm,
grade, but then I made really good friends in Vegas as well through like sixth and
yeah, you
seventh grade,
did.
and I had a really good connection with them. But I think like what we would talk about would be like my advice was I think
Hmm.
the plan to keep me in the same high school was probably the best thing.
Yeah.
So I think even though I had a really good connection with my friends in sixth and seventh grade, I think I needed to move to North Carolina for eighth grade to
Yeah.
start making friends for high school. And I think that was really important.
Oh, okay, cool. So, do you have any resentment or confusion during any of those times? No? Okay. So, we kind of kept things as smooth as possible and
Yeah, I would say so.
I think that's a couple points there, right?
Hmm.
Prior to even getting to that point, I would always, in my mind, I would think like, when Damonte gets like 15, I would love to have him come live with me full time, because now you're like that early,
Yeah.
manhood type thing is going on. I wanted to make sure I was an influence in that part of it, right? But it just happened to work out that I was fortunate enough to get stationed in one place to let him,
Hmm.
school all the way to high school. And that was the one thing I think me and Melissa talked about a lot, right? Like if there's one thing, those high school years are very important in, adulthood friendships a lot of times.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
it was ironically, you can talk, pray about it, whatever it is that this happens, and it was like what I got an assignment in like April to
Mm.
go to Langley, and my report no later than date was literally like one day after Dave Monte's graduation. I was like, well, my prayers technically were answered. Say what was coming after that, right? And so, but I was able to fortunately be able to move back my arrival date back to Langley, and allow it to, like, I got a son getting graduating, I got a house to sell, all these things were happening. And so, but Melissa, if it's okay if the guest can ask a question, right? I don't
Sure.
want to set my boundaries. And I can get this is Mom and Son Unplugged, not special guest. But so with that being said, right, from your standpoint, now this is
Mhm.
one of your first times like without him for a while. What was that like?
I would say it was an adjustment, but I also knew the importance of a young man needing that father influence, and not even just a young man, even if we had a daughter still needs their father in their life to show them
Hmm.
this is how you're supposed to be treated as a man. This is what you should be expecting from a man that loves you. And a son needs to know the lessons that a man can teach him. Like, I don't know how to teach a man to be a man. Only his father
Hmm.
can do that. And I didn't want to take that away from Damon, and I also didn't want to take that away from Damonte. So my feelings of wanting Damonte to be with me, I couldn't be selfish and take that away from either of them.
Hmm.
Because I knew that Damonte was only a plane ride away, but also what I had done and the reason why we had made that decision for Damonte to go to Damon's in eighth grade was when I was in Vegas, I was getting close to my 3 years in Vegas, and I was getting towards the end of my career, and I was trying to plan it out appropriately on where I wanted to end up retiring in my career. And I had volunteered. So when we decided that Damonte would go to his dad's in North Carolina, I ended up volunteering to do a year in Qatar. And then my whole master plan was I'm going to do a year in Qatar, and then I'm going to get a base. Because when you return from overseas, you normally get like your first choice of where you want to go after. So I'm like, this is going to work out perfect. So I went to Qatar for a year, and my whole plan was to go back to the East Coast. Well, when the assignment list came out, all of the assignments were on the West Coast. And I don't think I've ever cried so hard in my life because I was like, I literally just wasted a whole entire year over here. I did this for nothing. Now I'm not going to be close to my son. I only did this so I could get to the East Coast and be close to North Carolina or get to North. Like, my whole goal was to be in North Carolina or around it, but all the bases were on the West Coast. And my lieutenant colonel that I worked side by side with, she saw me that morning at the dining facility, and she saw my face because I had been crying all night, all morning. And she looked at me and she said, "Are you okay?" And I just broke down crying again. And she said, when we get into the office, send me your resume and everything you have to send me about your military career and all of that. So I gave her all of that information. And I think it was within 2 days I had an interview. And I took this interview and I ended up getting an assignment to Maryland. So it ended up working out. thank God.
Mhm.
And it was great. Like I was able to drive to North Carolina and go visit Damonte, and it was great. Or Damon, we would even actually meet up in Virginia. Damon would drive Damonte up. Yeah, we would meet halfway in Virginia somewhere. I'd pick up Damonte. So it worked out. We had to do what we had to do to make it happen. And I think we did really well in that. And then, so Damonte, I got one more question for you. So, what do you wish parents going through divorce what would you want them to know from a kid's perspective?
I think that you guys did a really good job. I think I never knew. I mean, you guys even said it. There was never like an extreme difference between the two of you, but you spoke to it earlier. It was like the hard work that goes on, like it was never like in front of me. Like I never knew the differences that had to be put aside. I always felt like you guys were good friends with each other throughout all of this. There was never a time that I questioned that. And I think that had a really big impact because had it not been that way, then I guess it would have been really easy for me to have like favoritism towards one or the other of you guys. And I never had that. And I think that you guys really did your best at putting me at the focal point to make sure that there was no challenges that I had to face unnecessarily.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, and I think I will say that's one thing that Damon and we never spoke ill will of each other in front of Damonte. That's one thing I would never do.
Front of Damonte, like it might have happened, but it just didn't happen in front of him. Like it just had that emphasis on it, like in front of Damonte.
No, I mean, because that's one thing. It's like you don't want your child to hear someone speak badly about their father or their mother.
Mhm.
You know, I don't think that's a good thing to do. You always want your child to have high respect for both parents. Yeah, so and we did really well. I would say and we never fought in front of Damonte, never spoke badly about each other. I think that's just who we are as people. So, yeah. So, thank you, Damonte, for your input. All right. So, now we're going to go into our co parenting lessons. And Damonte can even chime in as well on this part because, Damonte was part of the whole co parenting thing. So, what do you think worked? What do you think didn't?
Is that to me or to Damonte?
To either of
You
you.
got anything?
I think that your guys is like the timing of like the deployments and stuff and like getting PCS. I
Totally
think
out
those
of our
worked out
control, but
perfectly.
Mm.
Um, you said, yeah. I mean, I
We
think
just
that
had
worked.
to, yep, take it in stride.
I mean, that worked out perfectly.
I try not to say how much, but the one thing that worked out was, and Melissa touched on that earlier, was, if you're struggling with communication in a relationship, it's twice as hard when you're outside the relationship, right? You're not in the house with someone. I take that was one of the lessons. I think keeping the child a priority and a focus was a lesson learned because it just made the decision that much easier and it takes out the emotions of or feelings you may, of the other person, especially in the beginning, right? It's like divorce can have this ebbs and flows, right? You have some of those good days where y'all are like on the same track, and then the bad days are bad days,
Yeah.
right? You suddenly want to see the person, right? And so as you're navigating some of that part, regardless of whether it's on a high or a low, having the child as the center of that, always realize where you need to be in making your decisions because
Mm.
people can quickly get in their feelings about the person and forget about the focus on the child or the children, I should say. No one always talks singular. Um, so I think
Yeah.
that was important, and sometimes with that, it takes compromising, right? You got to take the higher road sometimes, or something you really used to stand firm on, you might have to back off of it because all of those things will get you back to the center. And so those are probably some of the things that worked out
Right.
well. And I think anything opposite of it probably doesn't work out well. I can't think of really too many times other than maybe a miscommunication, right? That you kind of like goes back to first point, stay on top of your communication. But I can't think of anything that I lesson wise that I learned or often think about that I would have done differently at this point. And, just yeah, trust the
Yeah.
process. It's not always not going to be easy. I can promise you that. But I think if you continue to just, like I said, just keep, that child or children the focus of it. Hopefully, it makes it a lot easier, right? Because, you know,
Mm.
I heard some crazy stories out there about. So, yeah,
Yeah, it's about them,
like
not us.
yeah. And now one thing that we also did was,
Yeah, and I think
even though I might have started off, you think I'm all about the money side of it, right? We were very good at whatever, like whether it was clothes for school to play a sport, always figuring out like, how the best way to approach it
hmm
for what works for us, right? Like, what buying this, so half. Yeah.
yeah, that is one thing that we didn't touch on. Yeah, we didn't even talk about like the whole
Yeah.
financial piece of it.
So, how did you guys figure out the financial part and who paid who when it came to the things that I did, school, sports,
Oh, like
Yeah.
child support.
So
extracurriculars, child support?
Did we work that? Because I don't remember initially, because when we moved to Alaska, number
yeah,
one, we
both
both
had to
had to
maintain it.
maintain a household. So I'm gonna say my point of view on child support, alimony. I don't believe in alimony, but child support, I think I'm pretty reasonable with this because we're both working parents. We're both having to maintain two households for our son. So I never understood. I'm going to say this, and he's probably going to be like, she's filling you full of crap. But if we're both having to maintain two households, I never understood why he would have to pay me child support because we're both supporting our child individually. And then if you want to talk about how we like divided up, how we did the stuff for like Damonte's school
When
clothes,
it came to
sports,
that,
like,
so there was no child support agreement through the court system. We kind of just worked it out amongst
mm-mm.
ourselves on what we, each came to a conclusion, which was a fair amount. And so typically the parent who claims the child gets paid a little bit more, right? And so Melissa kind of had that, and then I may have chipped in on the top of it. I don't know what our agreement was in the time, but when it came for him to live with me before I was actually making my dependent, she just basically paid me whatever the difference was she was getting from him, and that was it. That was kind of the. I just don't know what was
Yeah,
going on the other
yeah.
side. I felt like it was something, but maybe I paid a little bit, maybe I didn't. I don't know. We did,
I will say,
yeah.
and I won't say everything went perfect. Like it did not go perfect. I remember I had to go away for not my jobs, not when I changed jobs, but I had to go to a leadership course in San Antonio, Texas for like 7 weeks. And Damon, I think Damon had Damonte by like I think around 2 weeks at this point. And I get a text one day. So when are you going to start giving me child support? Just like, it's like, you've only
That
had him 2 weeks and you're already asking for
spam
child support. Like,
had to be
I
spam.
was livid. I was so mad because Damonte was coming back with me. Like, he was only staying with his dad, like, during the time that I was away at
I really
school.
seem like I'm about the money now.
I was hot.
Rewrite some of this. I'm gonna change my
No.
answer. I got mouth to feed.
But I mean, and then Damon had a situation with me and some tax
Alyssa
fraud. I
claimed my
don't know.
month, my year. I was looking forward to that. We got over it though. We can laugh about it now. That's the beauty of it. Everybody has those
Yeah.
moments, whether you're divorced or married. You're gonna have some moments where you just don't really like the other person. So there's still love there. You don't want to
Yeah.
harm them, but you
I
just
mean, we
don't
didn't
like
have
them.
those moments too often. No, but yeah, so that's kind of like how we did the financial piece of it. Anything that dealt with Damonte, like school clothes or needing stuff for
Hmm.
sports, we literally split it 50-50. Yeah, we just made it easy that way. And that's how we were when we were married and together as well. We had a joint account to where we totaled up our bills for the month and then we both put in half. And that's how we've always worked things out. So, and it's crazy because they always say that the number one cause for divorce was finances, and that was never an issue for us. Conversations over money. And clearly, we never had conversations, but we never had.
Oh, that was a good one. We know we won't talk.
But we didn't fight over money stuff. Man. But yeah, so that's how we work the financial
Yep.
aspect of it. Yep. All right. So our family today. So Damon,
So here I
family
am.
today. Where
Where are we at today?
are
Damonte
we
is
at today?
24. And
Damonte's
for the record,
24.
neither one of us have kids outside of this. So I don't know. Just wanted to set the stage. So I don't know if that helps or not when there's like no other kids. That's your focus, right? Because I
Maybe Damon just doesn't
if
know
you
of
see
any
some
other
kids
kids running around that
Damonte, just run.
that claim his name.
But no, I just wanted to put that into context because we didn't really talk about that. So it's not like there are other kids in the back being quiet right now
Yeah.
while this is going on, anything like that. I think that definitely probably when it's your only child, right? You're both of your own child is like it can be probably get pretty
Mm-hmm.
passionate really quick, right? Not saying that you would split up siblings, but I mean I've heard of cases of that happening, right? Like, but yeah. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to put that into context. So yeah, today I feel like obviously you can see kind of our dynamic, right? And how we get along. I mean, it's been I wouldn't say the road was long when we were on it, but looking back, like it wasn't some like write a book journey that we went through. That's like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. It was fairly smooth for the most part, right? With they're always going to be expected, right? Even
Yeah.
clear skies can produce some turbulence sometimes. So, um, yeah, I think, and here we are today. I think
Right.
we have like a trip planned to do a marathon. I think you might have touched on that in an episode. Well, they're running. I'm not as much. I got to sign up for that
No,
5K still.
I thought you were running.
Oh, did they? Oh, okay.
Sign-ups just opened up. Yeah, I just signed Damonte up today
His half
for.
marathon. My 5K. I'm going to do the 5K. Are you doing both?
I'm doing
No, I
both.
think. Yeah.
And oh no, I
Yeah,
better
so I
get
can
my
support both of
heavy
you.
on my training. I might take up speed walking because that's my
I know. I need to start.
get them hips in motion, loosen them hips.
See those hips twitching.
Um,
So I will say the support from that we're receiving now from our families says a lot. So when I retired from the Air Force at the end of 2017, I will say half of that room was Damon's family. Like his parents were there, his aunts were there, his cousins were there, his cousins were there. I mean, they all came from Virginia to Maryland to support me. And it really meant a lot. And honestly, I don't think you see too many divorced families that I feel actually come closer after divorce, which is weird. So that was really nice to have their support. And then my family is not as large, and I will say maybe not be as supportive. But my mom and I showed up to Damon's retirement ceremony, and we were there to support him, and it was great being there and being around his family and seeing everyone because it had been a while. Yeah, so that was a great experience to for all of us to be able to come together and for Damonte to be able to see what healthy relationships look like. Even though the marriage didn't last, it doesn't mean that our friendship had to die. So, yeah, so that's
yeah,
where
because
we are
once you
at
have that kid,
today.
that relationship lasts a long time.
No, it does. And a lot of people
Yeah,
say once they turn
yeah.
18, she's finally out of my life. But
Is
no,
that what it's
like, and it's not like that. Because it's going to be awkward when you both have to show up at your kid's wedding. Like, there she is over there with her man. Like you don't want to have that type of
we
animosity
got to
towards
have two
each other.
different
Like
weddings?
there's a better
I
way.
remember we went to a PTA meeting. I'll never forget this. We went to, I think this was Damonte's teachers with the dreadlocks. And I think it was his kindergarten teacher. She had dreads or something going on. I don't know what it was, but it was just funny. and we both walked in. We walked out. I was like, "Well, those dreadlocks, like they were like long and thick. Like she'd been growing those things for years. It's crazy." But anyway, and I remember her saying, she doesn't always see it where both parents are in the PT, in that parent teacher conference. She used to doing them on separate occasions because some people just don't get along like that. But as far as from a family, like, yeah, once in the family, you're always a part of the family.
Yeah. So that's where we are today. I mean, just because Damonte is a grown man, 24, that doesn't necessarily mean that we stop doing things together. So yeah, so actually we're really looking forward to this Kentucky Derby 5K mini marathon. So yeah, it's gonna be a good time.
Glad my nonverbals were aligned with that one.
And
Like looking forward to running. Come on now.
there is an option to sign up as a walker.
Ooh.
Hey, if these knees keep it up, I might need one of those. I might have to borrow one.
Damonte will push you in a wheelchair.
But I'll definitely try a walker. Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. So we will segue into closing this up for you guys. So, Damonte, do you want to provide any closing thoughts, advice to kids that are going through this process of parents going through divorce, or maybe they're having to transition from one house to another house? What kind of advice can you give them?
I would say that the best way to do it, if you're curious, like I was not, is to understand both sides, realize that there's like two humans at hand, and there's no point in picking a side of one or another. It is a unique opportunity to get to live in two different households, and there is good to have in that because not everyone has the opportunity. You guys were in different places, but I know sometimes it's in the same place. But I would say you have to find something that makes you happy or can like distract you from it if you feel like it is overwhelming to deal with. I guess for me, like we said, it was always keep me busy with sports, or for me, it was video games. But I feel like I never needed it to be a distraction as to what was happening, which was, I would say, a good thing, like from your guys' part. But it's never, the issues won't be forever if someone's going through that as a kid.
How would you recommend a kid speaking up to their parents and being, I would say, brave enough to ask a question if they do get curious?
Just to ask what's going on. I mean, it took me a while. I don't think I asked until I was like 17 or 18, maybe. I would just ask what's going on, how they're feeling, because you can comfort them, and then if they give you an answer, then you can tell them how you're feeling, and then they can help comfort you as to what's going on from their perspective.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And then Damon, what kind of advice would you give co-parents or even kids?
So great question. And as Damonte was talking, it triggered something, not really triggered something. It reminded me to, I feel like it's a bad thing. Like I'm about to
He
go
has a
down this
trigger.
crazy
No.
path all of a sudden. But no, it sparked a thought in my mind and what he said. You asked him like, what would the kids do, right? And I think it's from earlier. You asked what was one of the lessons learned, right? And I think I just learned that lesson is we should have sat down and had this conversation with him, right? Try to get in front of some of that curiosity. We didn't do that, right? Now here we are as adults. We're talking, we're joking about it, right?
Right.
But when he was younger, that's probably something we should have done.
Yeah.
Know how it can be like kids comprehension type, but still you're having the conversation and you're providing the foundation that, hey, if you ever want to talk about this, come to one of us or both of us, right? And so I think I would have to go back on. So that's probably a lesson that I learned. I just thought about it, just hearing him say that. From the parent side of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of touched on a lot of that part of it already, and I just kind of reiterate a few things. Would be no, like you said, don't talk bad about one parent in front of when another child is there. Don't be bad mouthing to your friends or on the phone. Be aware of like what's going on, because I can see how it can be picking them up from daycare and you just get caught up in the conversation with your friend, right? Like for that child to decide what they think of that parent, right? That's not sure road to kind of influence that. Be willing to compromise and be willing to keep the center of attention and the priority on the child children part of it, right? And sometimes that may be some patience involved. It may some compromise
Mm.
involved, right? There's going to be some collaboration happening, right? But when man, compromise is tough for a lot of people, right? And this keep your emotions out of it, right? Like what happened between y'all, if y'all are where y'all are for
Mhm.
whatever reason it may be, whoever's fault it may or may not be, that's nothing to do with the child and the products of what of you two of you, right? So those would probably be the things that I would leave with, and I'll leave it over to you.
Cool. Yeah, so my closing thoughts, advice to co-parents, to kids. One thing for the co-parents, communication is huge. In order to make anything work, you have to talk effectively. Screaming and yelling, just because you talk louder, that doesn't mean the other person's going to hear you. Being able to work things out on your own. I don't believe in having a stranger telling me and my son's father on how we're going to see our children. I don't know. I don't believe in that. And I think you, in like what Damon was saying, whatever got you to where you are today, you have to put those personal feelings aside because what's most important is having a healthy environment for your children. They need to still do great in school. You want them to be successful adults. And if they're living in a toxic environment, it's not going to go well for them. I mean, yeah, there are some kids that can still succeed out of that kind of environment, but it's not fair. It's not fair to the kid to have to be in chaos. So just try to make it as best for them as possible. And also for co-parents, we have to come to the understanding that each parent is going to move on. They're going to meet someone new. And you have to keep an open mind because that will probably end up being your best friend. And I will say, I think I ended up talking to Ganessa probably a lot more than Damon. She just provided me more information about Damonte and not that Damon wasn't good at it. I just think women just have more of that motherly instinct per se. But Ganessa was great at it. We talked all the time. Her and I are, I mean, we don't talk as often now, but her and I are still good to this day. I'm hoping we will get her on an episode soon. I would really love to have her join us so that way she can share her perspective because she held a lot down for the both of us and we wouldn't have been successful without her. So that's why I urge co-parents to have an open mind of who your ex-spouse is dating and also make it a point to meet them. You want to know who's going to be around your child. Unfortunately, it's a crazy world that we're living in nowadays. So you want to know who is my child around? You would hope that the parent is making good decisions in who they're selecting for a mate. But like Damon said, you don't know someone really, until you don't. I mean, you just never know what's lurking in someone's closet. So definitely do your due diligence with that. I think for kids that are going through this, Damonte gave really good advice. If you're unsure about something, ask a question. Because I think I would have loved it if Damonte asked, like, actually, I think it was like a few years ago, Damonte and I had a really great conversation. He asked questions and we talked for a very long time about it. So it's okay to ask questions, especially if you're curious, and don't go it alone. If you're feeling sad or nervous or uneasy about what's going on, even if you need to talk to a teacher or someone at school, a counselor, or one of your friends, just open up. Don't bottle it inside and everything will be okay. So if you guys have any input, any questions, leave a comment below and one of us will reach out to you. Or if any of the parents would like Damonte to talk to your kids, let us know below. And I know Damonte would love to have a
After you
one-on-one
shave
with
that mustache,
them.
I'm gonna want to run my kids down.
Well, thank you, Damonte, for being here. I know you're feeling unwell. So thank you for holding on strong during this whole entire episode. And thank you, Damon, for being a part of part two. I mean, you were, yeah, you had to be here. But we are going to do a part three. I have an idea for a part 3, so stay tuned for that. And thank y'all for tuning in,
Bye,
and
everyone.
bye.
But, and that's a wrap.
Cheers. Oh no, I should say, and that's a wrap as well, huh? Okay, we'll do that again.
Thanks for tuning in.
That's
Cheers. And that's a wrap.